Hello, everybody. Welcome into our Week 5 edition of Locked In. Yes, it's already Week 5. The season is just absolutely flying by. I can't believe it. I'm your host for the evening, Vishaal Gupta. I'm filling in for Mason. He is out this week. He is trying to recover from the brutal game he went to last night. I don't know if the 1 week is going to be enough. It might just be, the rest of his life. I don't even know what he's thinking about, but he'll be back next week, hopefully. But with me tonight, I have Ben Hunt at Ben Had Been. Ben, how's it going tonight?
Very well, very well. Happy to be here. Happy to be back, and let's make some money. I am. We have to highlight Mason's absence after that very poor performance, coincident by the Broncos, and he just happened to be there in person. Is it a coincidence he's not here? Is it not? I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
Is he going to be at the very last game that Daniel Hackett ever coaches in the league after just 4 weeks, maybe making history? You never know. These are the questions we're asking out here, though.
The odds you could have gotten that on that at the beginning of the season. I haven't even thought of that.
Yep, it should be interesting on that one for sure. Before we get started, we want to do a quick recap, like we always do, about our newest piece over on importantnonsense.com. It's our NFL versus piece that pits me and Mason against each other. We go head to head on 2 games every week. And here is how things stand after 4 weeks. We once again split our matchups this past week in week 4, going 1-1. This is the 3rd time this year we've split games. The other week, I went 2-0, which is why I have the slight edge so far at 5-3, but it's still very neck and neck. Things can change at any moment. So last week, the one I hit was Minnesota -2.5 against Andy Dalton and the Saints in London. That game was a lot closer than I think anybody expected just after the Dalton news had come out. And, the double doink saved me, luckily, at the very end, just able to get out there with the win. That was very nice, but it was a lot closer than I think I expected. The other one was the Jacksonville Jaguars, Philadelphia Eagles, over-under at 48.5. And it just barely went over at a total of 50, even though the conditions were very sloppy. So Mason eked that one out. This week, we are going head-to-head on first the Chargers at the Browns. I took the Chargers -3. Mason has the Browns +3. This line has already moved down to the Chargers -2.5, so it's a little bit in Mason's favor right now at the 3 number. But I still think I like this number quite a bit, mainly because, we saw Herbert last week, what he was able to do. This is kind of what we were expecting out of this offense heading into the season. It took a couple of weeks for them to kind of fully get in sync, and obviously Herbert got injured, but he looks like he's back to 100%. And then offense was just clicking last week. They just kind of torched the Texans' defense, and I think they'll be able to do that again this week against the Cleveland defense that's just not as good as we expected, even with Myles Garrett expected to come back. They just haven't been quite as good. They haven't been getting pressure. They haven't been playing good run defense, and their pass defense has been so-so. So I still really like the Chargers -3. Ben, do you see anything in this game that you like? The Chargers at the Browns?
I think it's a good matchup for your guys' article. It's almost a coin flip. I could see this going either way. It's one that I wouldn't be betting just because I would want to lean with the Chargers, because who doesn't want to back the Chargers and Justin Herbert? But if you go back the Browns, you feel kind of dirty, but you can obviously make a case for the Browns based on their run game. And especially here lately, historically, the Chargers have been bad at run defense. And
right.
If they're probably the best run team in the league, especially in terms of the diversity of what they're going to throw at you. And I'm going to show my behind a little here and admit that I actually haven't watched the Chargers film yet, because I'm not fully writing it off. I do want to see if they're still in rhythm without Keenan Allen, like if they're still able to function, because they're not the worst defense in the league, the Texans are, but I'm not going to grade that film as high as I would another team. I actually think we can grade this film a little bit better than the Texans film this week, because at least they're going to be facing some top talent on the other side of the ball. Garrett's going to give them some fits at times, you would think. I think it's going to come down to the back end of the Browns, because they've been up and down this season, and they've had some high, probably way more lows than highs, but they have some good talent, and the Chargers are banged up back there. I mean, they're getting Parham back, but Keenan was ruled out early, essentially, and Palmer's banged up as well. I've seen this down as low as -2 for Chargers in some spots. So yeah, if you have a lean on this, there's probably a lot of value to find. I just don't, I actually kind of lean with the Browns here because I just don't know if the Chargers, because it's in Cleveland, and I don't know if the Chargers can handle the run game. But do you really want to back Jacoby Brissett against Justin Herbert? Right. I'd rather just sit this one out personally, and it'll be a fun watch either way.
Yep, for sure.
Especially in a week that's down. I thought last week was kind of lackluster, but we still had good games, semi-marquee matchups for this season, but they were marred by weather, like Buffalo versus the Ravens and the Jags-Eagles game. But this week is far more barren, so I guess I should counted my blessings last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And the running part of the Browns offense against the Chargers defense is very critical in this one. I think that's mainly why Mason was back in the Browns. And I think we got Mason in the chat here, Neckbone on Twitch. I believe that is Mason giving us a nice shout out, best damn betting show on the planet. I think he missed our intro where we were talking shit about the Broncos. So maybe if he heard that, he wouldn't be too happy about chiming in. But yeah, thanks for watching along tonight.
We'll just make this all negative Broncos from here on out.
We should do that. Whenever he's not here, we just spend the whole show just making fun of him. That would be great. Our next matchup in our versus piece this week was the Buccaneers taking on the Falcons with the over-under set at 48. Mason took the under, and I took the over. The main reason I took the over on this one was primarily because it seems like Tampa Bay is back to being fully healthy on offense. They're getting their pieces back. We saw Chris Godwin was back last week. Julio got on the field, even though he wasn't totally 100%. They got Russell Gage out there. I think they're just finally getting back to being healthy. And even though they were kind of getting destroyed last week, Brady in the offense had a good day. He had 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, 350 yards. They moved the ball, even though a lot of it was in garbage time. But I think we saw what this offense can be this season when everybody is healthy. And now they're going to take on an Atlanta defense that's okay, but it's definitely not anywhere close to being able to handle this Tampa Bay offense. So I think Tampa Bay is going to be able to put up a lot of points. The question is, can Atlanta do their part and put up points on their end? Even if it's just, 15 to 20 points, that's probably all they need to be able to hit the over. But can they do that? Mason's contention was no, they're not going to be able to do that against this stingy Tampa defense that has been excellent minus last week. The previous 3 games, they were phenomenal on defense. And if they shut down the Falcons offense, then yeah, this one's probably going to go under. But I think the Falcons offense has a little bit of enough spark to be able to put up some points in this one. Do you have any leans on this one, Ben?
I like this game a little bit. I wouldn't run out and bet Bucks -10 or anything, and I'm not messing with the total. I once again think this is a good bet, example bet for you guys' article versus it's kind of a coin flip. I could see it being a shootout, maybe not really actually, because the Bucks are going to tamp down the Falcons offense. You would love to see Pitts healthy here, so they couldn't focus on London, and so Mariota would have a shot. I mean, Mariota's going to have some trouble. I like this game for betting on some props like Godwin. Anybody they're just going to rotate guys out of the slot and attack the slot, and it's going to be they're just going to go down the field. I mean, the Bucks are probably going to score 40 in this game, so it's really what you encapsulate it perfectly. Like, can the Falcons get 2 touchdowns? Can they get 4 field goals in a touchdown? And I don't know, and that's why it's a coin flip once again. So great pick, guys. I'm gonna have fun sweating it out with probably $0 on it.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, right? And I think Kyle Pitts has already been ruled out for this one, along with Cameron Brate. So a couple pieces that are already missing. But to be honest, Pitts has not been involved very much in this offense, so it'll be interesting to see if it's even a factor. Just because for some reason they're just not using him at all.
I think it's actually fantasy has such. It's overblown. We are here because of fantasy a lot. We're here. Betting is so big because of fantasy, right? But they're intertwined, and everyone that has Kyle Pitts is mad. So they're trying to find reasons and excuses. And Kyle Pitts is just the focus of every defense. And when Drake London's over here and he's got feet of separation, you're going to go to Drake London every time. And Mariota, he needs everybody to be there, and that he's going to struggle this week without Pitts. Pitts is still great. He's still awesome, and it'd be nice if he could get the ball more, but it's just really not the way the offense is built. They're really good at running it, and they do that. And with Patterson out, I mean, this actually could get ugly. It really could with Patterson out as well. It really could get ugly. But yeah, I mean, Pitts is still great, and I love the overreaction by the fantasy community that, oh no, what are they doing? Because they want to do it, but the coverage is shaded to him. So what are you gonna do? I don't know.
Yeah. And whatever they're doing, it seems to be kind of working. They're 2-2, probably better than people expected, and they have a chance to maybe take a divisional lead if they can pull out this big time upset win in Tampa Bay.
Right. Without the injuries, we're looking at a great matchup here.
Yep, for sure. So let's move on to our regular slate of games that me and Ben both like. Let's start off with Detroit at New England. I like the Lions getting 3 points going to New England with Bailey Zappi starting at quarterback here in New England. A little surprising that this line hasn't moved towards Detroit's favor. Maybe the Oddsmakers are still think that the Patriots have something with Zappi. He wasn't terrible last week. He was somewhat impressive for somebody who came off the bench with little experience as a rookie. But we've seen what Detroit's offense can do. They've been absolutely terrific on that side of the ball. Even with Swift expected to be out and St. Brown questionable for this one, I don't think there's any question that Detroit will be able to move the ball up and down the field and score points. I guess the question is there still concern that their defense, which has been very below average, are they going to have trouble stopping Zappi and this offense? I still like Detroit +3. I still think they can make things happen and probably win this game outright. Do you see anything different on this one, Ben?
It's hard for me to decide on this one. Because it's so hard to gauge the Lions based on the teams they've played and the performances they've had. And this is kind of, I actually haven't looked at the practice report for this game, but I hope the entire defense is healthy for New England. And I don't even think it's like the best defense in the world, but we know Belichick can whip up a game plan. And I think that especially minus the weapons, just a regular defense with a decent game plan can stop this offense. I don't think I love their scheme's great, like very good. I won't say great, but their scheme's very good. But if St. Brown's not at 100% health and they don't have Chark and you have a good game plan and the running game's not like, I believe that the Patriots can at least tamp down the running game a little bit on the road. So I don't know. I wouldn't bet this one, but based on your eyes and what you've seen so far, it's kind of strange to see the Lions +3, and you obviously would lean Lions, especially with Bailey Zappi. I mean, his arm strength definitely leaves something to be desired. The Patriots could easily just it's interesting. I think the Patriots are going to run the ball down their throat. I really do. I don't see it's going to be this is one of the better games of the week, and it's Lions Patriots, and it's Bailey Zappi versus Jared Goff. Like, I think once again that's indicative of the quality of this week and the quality of football in the NFL we have going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. This definitely feels like a trap game with the line not moving very much at all, even with the injuries coming out. So it'll be interesting to monitor going over the next 24, 48 hours before kickoff and seeing if any injury news comes out that kind of makes an impact one way or the other.
If you're looking for value, 3 with the Lions, though. I mean, that seems like really good value to pass up. Like, if you're somebody that just bets games to have money on them, 3 with the Lions, that probably seems like good value.
Yep. You get the safety with the 3, so you can push, and then you don't even have to win that way. So that's why you like it at +3. Moving on, next up we have the Eagles at the Cardinals. 2 teams going in completely opposite directions. You like the Eagles -5.5, and I am right there with you. But tell us, why do you like the Eagles in this one?
Well, I've been on the Eagles all offseason. They're my biggest offseason position. I love the Eagles. That game, it was so sad that game last week was marred by the weather, because at least we could have gotten a little bit of a better gauge of what, AFC title game or a Super Bowl matchup would look like, because those teams are in opposite conferences. My apologies. But as far as the Cardinals and the Eagles go, I feel like the Cardinals wish they were the Eagles a little bit, with the mobile quarterback and just big guys. But the Cardinals, so much, there's just nothing to love there. There's another game that I actually don't know if I plan on watching the tape on that one. I did some work for PFF on the Cardinals Panthers game, and it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. Just doing a little work on it, let alone watching it. So this is an easy one. I think this is the easiest game of the week, and that's why I'm so lukewarm on all the other games because there are a lot of clear-cut matchups this week where I see some landslide victories coming out, and I'm surprised this is not bigger. Perhaps it's because my lot is out the line. I mean, I see it 5 still in some places, and I know 5 is not like the biggest number, but I'm surprised it's not to 6. And yeah, I see them rolling them, and maybe you have like a situation where the Eagles are up 20-17 in the second half, and the Cardinals spark a little comeback like they tend to do when the defenses play back and Kyler just runs around. But yeah, I'm not really that scared. I mean, over 49 seems like it's decent as well. And this is also a good situation to jump on Eagles player props, I think, because I don't see how they stop anybody, the Cardinals defense on the Eagles offense. I don't. It's it's going to be great. If you're an Eagles fan.
I agree completely on this one. The win last week for the Cardinals is very much, deceiving. They did not look good again for the vast majority of the game. It took them a couple late touchdowns in the fourth quarter to pull away and win by double digits, but that's not at all indicative of how their team has been playing this year. They just seem lifeless for probably 75% of the game, and then on occasion they'll have a good fourth quarter and put up some points, but against a good Eagles team, that's just not going to work out for them in their favor. You can't play football like that in the NFL against elite teams and hope that it works out. It's just not a good formula for anybody. So yeah, you just kind of have to take the Eagles in this one, and just I don't know what's going on with Arizona, but we're going to continue to bet against them until they figure something out over there.
Perfect teaser spot if you're worried about the points at all, which I'm not necessarily worried in this spot, but there's a lot of teaser spots this week, and this is just a perfect leg to put in there that is very comforting because without the line, you're pretty comfortable the Eagles are going to win this game.
Yep, absolutely. All right, next up, we have the Seahawks at the Saints. I wrote about this in our early line value pick where Seattle was plus 5.5, and I still really like them. I think it's come down to Seattle plus 5. I was actually expecting it to move down even more towards Seattle's favor. That's why I wanted to get this one early in the week. But it's still at 5. The injury report is showing us that Dalton will be starting this one again. Michael Thomas is going to be out for this one again. Alvin Kamara is expected to be back in this one for the Saints. But there's just no way you can have Andy Dalton be favored by 5 points against Geno Smith, who surprisingly has been one of the best quarterbacks in the league this season. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Definitely not me. I had Seattle to be the worst team in the league this year and had the first overall pick. So they've definitely been very surprising for me, and they've just been playing so well offensively thanks to Geno Smith. I just can't believe they're getting so many points against Andy Dalton on this one, even if it's on the road. Are you seeing anything different on this one, Ben?
This is one I'd be sitting out, but I mean, at first glance, of course. But when I dig a little deeper, the Saints defense isn't what it once was, but they're still decent. And then when you factor in it's on the road, and I feel like this is a kind of a team game. It's always a team game for the Saints, but they want this win. I feel like they really need this win. And I mean, as bad as Winston was playing, I mean, the Seahawks defense is terrible. It's not good. It's very, very bad. And they just lost 2 of their pass rushers. And they weren't the greatest pass rushers, but now they don't even have a rotation. So I would stay away. This is like a classic letdown spot. But I mean, 5 is a lot. It's weird. It is a weird line. I really don't understand it. But I think it's like the respect of the venue and the way the teams are constructed. And look at who they played. They played the mess of the Broncos on the road, the Seahawks on the road at San Francisco, and they got dusted, which this isn't the same situation, but it's a good defense and a quarterback who's going to manage the game. And then the Falcons, no defense. And then the Lions, 0 defense. So I like Geno's the biggest surprise so far. No one's a Geno guy. I feel like if you're a Geno guy, you're either like a Seahawks
only Pete Carroll.
Film guy.
Geno guy
Right. A Seahawks film. You're a Seahawks film guy, or you have him on your fantasy team and you just lucked out, because I don't really like this is we'll see. I mean, it's definitely possible. I mean, he was on the Jets, right? And after that, he's had a lot of time to sit. So it's definitely possible that this is real, but Let's see it. Let's see it in some spots where it's actually like difficult, and let's see him sustain it. So yeah, this will be an interesting test. And you feel way more comfortable with the 5. I mean, it's Seahawks or nothing, obviously here.
Yep, should definitely be interesting on the road in New Orleans against Marshawn Lattimore, Cameron Jordan. Definitely a very big test for Geno.
DK Metcalf versus Marshawn Lattimore. That is going to be great.
That should be very fun, and then we'll see what else they can do. But I just think it'll be close 5, and it's just too many. And I don't see how Dalton's going to win by a touchdown. So
that's a very
Seattle
good point.
+5.
Very good point.
Yep. All right, next up we have the Ravens at the Bengals. You like the Bengals +3.5. This is a game I've also been thinking about taking for the Bengals as well. Haven't been able to pull the trigger yet, but why do you like the Bengals to cover the 3.5 in this one on the road?
I think you can make the argument either way. I think if it was reversed, I'd probably take the Ravens because the 3 and the hook is once again, it's kind of like interesting. Like, what do they know that I don't know? This seems like an obvious, we'll just take the points and run with it. And then I look at the defenses, and I feel like the Ravens are still trying to find themselves on defense, whereas the Bengals aren't the best defense, but they're still doing what got them to the Super Bowl last year. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be able to throw enough wrinkles. They're going to throw more wrinkles at Lamar than the Ravens are going to throw at Burrow. I actually think the Bengals are constructed to beat the Ravens with their pass game, kind of the way. I think it's a bad matchup for the Ravens, honestly. Just the way they play. I think we could see it going over the top quite a bit, but I think they're wary of that. So we could see a lot of them just punch him in the mouth, a lot of Joe Mixon as well. They could go either way with this one. But I actually feel like you could bet this 3 different ways. You could take it, the money line, the spread, and then protect yourself with the teaser and put it up to 9.5, and then you're really safe, and put it with the Eagles. But this is an interesting one. And this is by far, at least to me, the best matchup of the week. So it's definitely one I want to be invested on in some way, shape, or form. Maybe some Tyler Boyd props.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds good to me. The reason I would like the Bengals in this one too is kind of the injury report today is not favoring the Ravens at all. Bateman has already been ruled out. Justin Houston has been ruled out, and Justice Hill has been ruled out. We'll see if Gus Edwards is going to bounce back from his injury. I think this will be his first game this year. We'll see how he looks. But the reason that I kind of staying away for now is just because I still don't know really what's going on with Joe Burrow on the offense. They had flashes of good moments. We saw it last week. They can have the occasional awesome drive where they just throw it deep to T. Higgins. He catches it, breaks it, and goes for a touchdown. They can also have just a number of stalled drives that do nothing, just 3 and outs or just punts after a few plays. And if you do that against the Ravens continuously, it's just hard to see that working out too well. So it's just the sustainability of this offense for the Bengals is not there right now. Hard to trust. I just need to see it. I know Burrow can do it. I know this offense can do it because we saw it last year, but it's just not working right now this year. So that's kind of why the 3.5 does look good, but you can easily see this, they can't put a drive together late when they need it to, make it a tied game or something like that, and they lose by 4 or 7. So just right now, until I see a little bit more improvement from this Bengals offense, I'm going to kind of stay away from these close numbers.
Yeah, you make some good points. That's essentially why I would protect myself in other ways, because it's definitely not safe. But I suppose it's one of those as a bettor, as you're looking through, it's like you're a kid in the candy store. It's like, oh, I'm taking that for sure. Bengals +3.5. Oh yes, please.
It's better than a lot of other options out there this week, so it makes sense. All right, next up we have the Dolphins at the Jets. I have a couple plays on this one. I like the Jets to cover 3.5 as home underdogs, and I like under 46.5 on the total. Bridgewater is going to be starting in this one. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Xavier Howard are all questionable in this one. I think they're probably leaning towards they are going to play, but even if they do, they're probably not going to be 100% in this one. I'm just not seeing it with Bridgewater. I mean, we saw what he was in Denver last year, and he just was not good. I mean, the lasting image from him last year was obviously the game against the Eagles where Darius Slay was returning, an interception or a fumble for a touchdown, and Bridgewater just completely whiffed on it, didn't give any effort. And sometimes he can be okay, but too many times he's not. And him getting points on the road against the Jets defense that's been surprisingly, I think that they've been better than advertised this season. They play hard defense. That's just way too many points. I think Zach Wilson was okay last week. They were able to move the ball enough against the okay Pittsburgh defense. I think they'll be able to move the ball some in this one as well. So I just can't believe they're getting 3 and the hook at home. That's hard to pass up with the Jets. And then 46.5 is too many points for a Zach Wilson, Teddy Bridgewater game. Both defenses are good enough to get pressure and stop the other team from moving the ball through the air. And too many points for me. So I'll take the under and the Jets at home in this one. You like anything in this one, Ben?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily giving in on it. Maybe it's like the reverse of what we just talked about. Like you're in on the 3.5 here, and I'm not, and I'm in on the other 3.5, and you're
Right.
not. But when I first saw you were in on this, I was like, "What is he talking about?" Because I guess I hadn't seen the practice reports, the injury reports, but to see the wide receivers being hurt for Miami and it running through them, and then like you said, Bridgewater. I mean, ironically enough, it's like he's been hanging out with Melvin Gordon. I didn't watch the game last night. I steered clear of it, but Melvin Gordon's looked a little dusty here lately, and they were together last year. So I actually like Bridgewater, or at least used to. That was sad when he got hurt in training camp all those years ago. But yeah, 3.5 is strange. I don't know why it's so big, but there are also there's a few games that I missed last week, but the one that I do definitely want to go back and watch is Jets Steelers, because not only do I want to see how Zach Wilson played, but also Kenny Pickett. I'm interested to see, because I have my doubts whether or not he played well last week. And I've seen people say he played well, but I've also seen people say that he didn't play well. So I'm interested to see what I see. This is going to be an interesting game. It's a nice little test. I think Waddle's kind of key in this game, because let's say Hill's not perfect, but Waddle was essentially a decoy, I felt like, against the Bengals, and he was just out there running. They didn't really target him much. So if he's a little bit better with a little extra rest, and he can kind of take the wide receiver one role, which we already know he's clearly capable of, I think maybe they'll be okay. But man, it's a lot to ask. And yeah, you definitely feel way more comfortable with the 3.5 with the Jets.
Yeah, the question with the Bridgewater is he going to be able to push the ball down the field like we saw Tua doing for the first 3 weeks, making this such an explosive offense? I mean, all of those deep shots, and why they were leading the league in passing was because that's how this offense, runs. You just got to throw the ball deep, and I don't know if Bridgewater has that in him right now. And then for the Wilson standpoint, I think maybe the bar is just set so low that because he wasn't a total disaster, people are saying he played okay. That's just where his expectations are right now. And he didn't throw 5 interceptions or anything like that, so it was an okay game. He had a touchdown to Corey Davis. He had a receiving touchdown as well, so that's an okay game for Zach Wilson.
Right. My biggest thing, I wasn't necessarily in or out or a big fan or a hater or anything, but once I saw him dirting simple bubble screens, that was when I was fully out. So that's my question: did he complete a successful bubble screen against the Steelers? Did he?
Don't know that one off the top of my head. We'll have to go back and check the film on that, but I hope so. Hopefully he did that, because you got to be able to do that in this league.
Yeah, you would hope. I'm sure he's gotten that under control.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Houston against Jacksonville. You liked over 43.5 in this one. What do you like about the total in this game?
I actually kind of like the Jags in a teaser more than the total, to be quite frank. I think they could easily maybe, underestimate the Texans. I haven't looked at their schedule. I don't know if this is a look ahead spot. I need to look at that. But I think maybe the Jags pull out to a big lead, score four touchdowns, maybe get over 30, and then the Texans score like 2-3 touchdowns of their own, and it's easily over. I feel like the Jags are a good defense, but they're sometimes not the best at tackling. So that could easily aid you in the over here. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big Jags man, so I think this is a smash spot for the Jags, and it's a get right spot, obviously, and they have the advantages. I don't think the Texans are very good. I don't think Davis Mills is very good. Zay Jones might not play, but other than that, the Jaguars are pretty healthy, much healthier than the Texans as well.
Yeah, Mills isn't great, but I think he's been surprisingly okay for where he was drafted and only being a second-year player. I mean, he can move the ball and get the ball into the end zone. The Texans were able to put up 24 last week, albeit they were kind of getting blown out, but he kept it relatively close late in the game. He got the ball to Brandon Cooks when he needed to. And, he's thrown, at least one touchdown, I think, in pretty much every game except the Broncos game in week 2. But he's been better than I think a lot of people expect. I think he's been better than some of the guys drafted ahead of him in the first round of that draft. So I think he's good for a couple touchdowns in this game to be able to push this one over. That makes a lot of sense to me. But teasing the Jags down from -7 to -1, that seems very, very juicy and very appealing. And essentially it puts them at a pick 'em to take the Jags -1 at home against the Texans team that's, definitely below average. So
and there are so many of these teaser spots this week, so many. So you could be all in on 1 or 2 or 3, or you could completely diversify because there might even be more than a handful. And I try to avoid the bad teams. Shout out to your Bears. I haven't watched that much Bears this year. I haven't watched that much Texans this year, but I'm trying to think back of what Mills reminds me of. And the offensive talent around him isn't the worst. So he kind of reminds me of like a Jimmy Garoppolo, where it's like how much better is he going to get? And I just, that's maybe why I think it's going to go over, but I don't think he's a starter necessarily in the league. Yeah. I think this is kind of like this is what it is. So yeah, I mean, I think this is an easy win for the Jags though, for sure.
Yep, for sure. I think he would be like a top tier backup, but moving on into this one, let's go to Tennessee at Washington. I like over 42.5 in this one. I think both defenses are just not that great. I think both offenses have enough pieces where they're able to move the ball and score points. Derrick Henry has kind of been revitalized the last couple of weeks. They're running the ball quite well. And I think Tannehill is making enough plays in the passing game where they should be able to put up, 20 to 25 points without much problem. And then I think this, Washington side of the ball, they have not looked good offensively since week 1, where Wentz had 4 touchdowns in that game. But this is probably going to be their best matchup against this Tennessee defense that they've had since then. I think Wentz will be all right. He'll be able to throw 1 or 2 touchdowns. He'll probably have a bunch of picks as well. That's just how it goes with Carson Wentz. But I think there's going to be enough explosive plays in this one to go over such a small number at 42.5. I think there's just going to be enough points in this one. Do you see anything different, Ben, in this game?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that you would focus in on that, because I could see it going either way, just because with Washington's offense being so bad, and Tennessee kind of is the epitome of a team that will get any sort of 2-score lead and immediately sit on the ball. So I would stay away from it. I actually kind of like the under a little bit more, which I would never bet. But I think I actually like the Titans defense. They aren't that great of a defense, but they come out and they destroy people sometimes. And we've seen this over the last few years under Vrabel, and it's because they have some really good pieces, some elite players, and then he knows how to coach them up on the back end and knows how to move these linebackers. Mm-hmm. It sucks that Cunningham's out for this matchup, because I think that would make him smash him even more. But Washington's offensive line is in shambles, and they just lost their starting right tackle. And I mean, the defensive line for the Titans is the strength. So this game could be played like at the back end of the 20s. Maybe the Titans win the field position game and go in 4 times, and then you're looking at like they're in the lead and a few touchdowns late from Wentz. But this could be a game where Wentz just implodes, and I feel even more comfortable. If this was on the road in Tennessee, I'd feel way more comfortable with that. But I feel slightly more comfortable with it because Logan Thomas has a midweek calf injury, so he's like a sudden questionable. Right. And Dotson's out with a hammy, and then Curtis Samuel just now got his first full practice in, so he'll be fine. So they say. But I mean, you're missing a lot, and he needs almost all of it, I think. Yeah, I'd be scared.
It sounds like you would definitely like Tennessee minus the 2 or 2.5 that they're getting right now.
Right, but that would be a perfect – yes, exactly. And unless you feel so comfortable with it. But then again, like Tennessee +4 in a teaser just to like have a little and cover yourself, because can Washington beat Tennessee by 5 or 6? I don't know if that's, I don't know. I really doubt that. With missing all those pieces with a new right tackle, I don't know. Maybe Brian Robinson runs them through. I don't know.
Yeah, should be interesting for sure in this game. Probably an overlooked game that not a lot of people are going to have their eyes on, but we'll see how that one turns out. Our last game of the week, the Raiders at the Chiefs. You like the Chiefs -7 at home against the Raiders, who they've absolutely destroyed over the last few years since Patrick Mahomes has got to town. Why do you like the Chiefs to continue their streak of just blowing out the Raiders?
Well, to reference something you said, the Bucs defense is a good defense, but they got lit up last week, and that's because these people, the Chiefs, they learned their lesson. Who knows why they were sleepwalking against the Colts, because there's no reason to sleepwalk against that defense and that team right now, but they did, and they lost that game because, well, they sleepwalked and they shot themselves in the foot. But I think that's over. I think they are firing on all cylinders, as everyone can see, and even if they weren't, they are facing the team to get right with. This is the team that every team fires on all cylinders against. This is a bad defense. And they can make some plays, but they are not good. And you would love to see the Raiders offense get on track here. Fully on track. I know Josh Jacobs just had a good game, but I want to see more from Derek Carr. This is because just Jacobs running it down people's throats isn't sustainable. I don't think you can't rely on that to win week after week. And where is the rest of the offense? We didn't need to see it. You'd like to see it this week. I just don't know if it's going to come on the road in KC in this spot, but maybe. But yeah, I feel comfortable. And this is another perfect teaser spot because you could easily see that they do historically cover this number in the spot. But if you're not comfortable, then just tease it or do both and cover yourself.
Yep, this is an absolutely perfect teaser spot. Getting the Chiefs from 7 to -1, essentially just to pick them, and you can tease them with a whole bunch of teams. You've already mentioned the Eagles. You told us about the Jags. And then you mentioned the Vikings as well. You can get the Vikings down to -1 or -1.5. All essentially pick'ems, all essentially money line parlays should probably pay off in this game in this week. So those all look very good to me. And I think that's going to wrap it up for us for week 5. I hope everybody enjoyed and learned a lot about these matchups this week. We will be back next week, same time. Also, make sure you check us out on Thursday night football during halftime for Over Underdogs, where we talk about some of our favorite plays over at underdog.com. And make sure you check out the entire IN betting team's work over at importantnonsense.com. We do a lot of great pieces out there. Ben does exotics that give you a lot of various betting props and markets that you can bet on and make you a lot of money. And then make sure you join our Patreon to get access to our Discord for all of our picks and all of the stuff we talk about in there, whether it's fantasy football, starts and sits, trades, dynasty leagues. We also have our sports betting channel in there, obviously, where you can get our picks for the week. Make sure you come in and hang out with us over there. It's a great time. And then also shop.importantnonsense.com. Get yourself some awesome swag, polish the tight end, and all this other great stuff we got over there. Check out the swag. I think that's going to do it. Ben, any parting words for you tonight?
Yeah, guys, this is a great week to bet. Maybe not the greatest football or the greatest matchups, but yeah, great week. It's been fun. Happy to be here with you, V. Thanks for having me. Mason, get well soon. Check out the exotics article. It'll be out tomorrow afternoon. There's a lot of value on that too. A lot of good stuff to pair props with winners this week as well, such as Godwin with the Bucks and any Eagles with an Eagles win. That's good stuff as well. Check me out on Twitter as well. Ben my name, had the word, Ben the word. Yeah, it's been fun. Look forward to doing it again soon. Should be a decent week of football.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, Ben, and thanks for everybody for watching at home. We will catch you next week. Thanks, everyone.